He admitted to the detectives that he went to Rural King and bought some black garbage bags that he used to wrap Miss Jeffrey's body in. He opened the door to that storage compartment and smelled something. He smelled an odor that is unmistakable, that he had smelled many times in his career. He smelled the unmistakable odor of death and decomposition.
In the fall of 2018, Lisa Jeffrey's family reported her missing when nobody saw or heard from her after her 48th birthday. Lisa's ex-husband, Bo Pete Jeffrey, told investigators that they still lived together, but he said he had no idea where she was or what had happened to her. Detectives from the sheriff's office in Marion County, Florida, eventually made a gruesome discovery in the trailer they had shared. And when they told Bo Jeffrey what they found, he did a 180 and told them an entirely different and altogether horrific story. Before we begin, we would like to express our deepest condolences to the O'Rourke family for their loss. Lisa Michelle O'Rourke was born in Tampa, Florida on November 5, 1970. We don't know much about her early years, but later in life she had 3 daughters and a son who meant the world to her. Lisa's children didn't always live with her, partly because she had developed a drug problem as a young woman. She battled addiction throughout her life, but her kids described her as a selfless and kind-hearted mother who always put their needs and well-being ahead of her own. Lisa had a number of relationships over the years, but she eventually married a convicted felon named Bo Pete Jeffrey in 2013. They lived in a travel trailer located at the Holiday Travel Park RV Resort on West State Road 40 in Ocala, Florida. They had a few relatively happy years together, but between Lisa's drug use and Bo Jeffrey's drinking, things eventually took a turn for the worse. Lisa's daughter, Riley, lived with them for 5 or 6 years. When she was about 13, she witnessed a horrible fight between her mother and Bo, during which he put her in a chokehold and nearly strangled her. Riley eventually moved and started a family of her own in Iowa, but the domestic abuse got even worse after she left. On numerous occasions, Lisa's other children noticed injuries on her arms and legs that they suspected were caused by Bo. Once, his horseshoe ring left a telltale imprint on her arm where he punched her. By the fall of 2018, their marriage was so abusive and unbearable that Lisa filed for divorce. But surprisingly, they continued living together afterwards out of convenience and financial necessity. Later, Bo Jeffrey found a new girlfriend named Patience Helen Burton. Patience was Bo Jeffrey's distant cousin, and she regularly stayed at the trailer with him and Lisa. The living situation was cramped and tense, and Lisa often turned to drugs to deal with the stress and pressure. And to make matters worse, she was also dealing with a number of debilitating medical conditions like lupus and Crohn's disease. Sometimes her symptoms got so bad that she checked herself into hospitals without telling anyone. Even so, she always contacted her friends and family members to let them know where she was and that she was all right. The sad truth was that Lisa's life was on a downward trajectory, but she managed to maintain her relationships with her children, even though some of them lived out of state. Lisa spoke with her daughter Jamie in Oklahoma on Sunday, November 4th of 2018. It was the day before Lisa's birthday, and according to Jamie, she seemed perfectly fine. Lisa was looking forward to her birthday and was even more excited about flying out to Oklahoma on November the 20th to visit Jamie and her family. This was a big deal for both of them because they hadn't seen one another in ages. Before hanging up, Jamie told her mother that she would call the following day to wish her a happy birthday. That night, Bo Jeffrey and Lisa met some friends at a local bar to celebrate, and by all accounts, everyone was drinking heavily. It's unclear what exactly happened at that party, but Lisa and Bo Jeffrey ended up back at the travel trailer a few hours later. The following morning, Jamie sent a text to her mom to wish her a happy birthday. But since Lisa didn't have her own phone, she sent the message to Bo's phone. Jamie and her sister Crystal both tried calling their mother throughout the day, but nobody ever picked up their calls. Jamie did get a text reply from Bo Jeffrey's phone later that afternoon. Also later that afternoon, she actually spoke to Bo, but he said that Lisa had taken money from his truck and some electronics from the home and had run off. Jamie didn't know if he was telling the truth or not, but she didn't think much of it because Lisa regularly disappeared for a day or two. As sad as it was to admit, she figured her mother was out using drugs. From past experience, she assumed that her mother would sooner or later call to let her know that she was okay and that she would eventually go back to the travel trailer when she ran out of money or a place to sleep. But this time, Lisa never checked in with any of her children, friends, or family members for 2 weeks. She never got on the flight to Oklahoma Crystal had booked for her on November the 20th either. This was alarming because she knew how much her mother was looking forward to seeing her. The situation got even more dire when no one had seen or heard from Lisa on Thanksgiving, and 3 days later she missed her daughter Crystal's birthday. By then, Crystal was so worried that she began calling local jails and hospitals to see if her mother had a medical issue or if she had been picked up for possible drug possession. She also called her friends and family members in Florida, but no one had seen or heard from Lisa in weeks. Crystal eventually spoke with her siblings and Lisa's niece, Winifred Burke, who lived in Maine, on Tuesday, November the 27th of 2018. They decided it was time to call the Marion County Sheriff's Office and report her missing. Early in the investigation, Deputy Calvin Batts from the Marion County Sheriff's Office talked to Bo Jeffrey to see if he had any idea where Lisa was. He told Deputy Batts that Lisa took some electronics from the travel trailer and $700 from his pickup truck and disappeared the morning after her birthday. After the conversation, Bo Jeffrey went to stay with a relative in Putnam County, Florida. On December the 2nd, Deputy Batts went to the Holiday Travel Park RV Resort to do a routine welfare check. While there, he spoke with Bo's 47-year-old girlfriend, Patience Burton. She told him that she didn't know where Lisa was, but he got the feeling that she knew more than she was letting on. At one point, he asked if he could come and look through her phone to see if there were any text messages from Bo about Lisa, but she claimed that she had lost it. But again, he didn't believe her, and she got defensive when he suggested that they look for her phone inside the trailer. Patience's behavior was suspicious to say the least, but at that point, nobody knew if a crime had been committed. As far as investigators and Lisa's family knew, she went off to use drugs as she had done numerous times before. Even so, nearly everyone suspected there was far more to the story, and Patience eventually admitted to lying on December the 2nd when investigators interviewed her again on that day. She said that she never lost her phone, but that Bo Jeffrey had it, and that she smelled an odd and offensive odor inside the trailer a few days after Lisa was reported missing. And even more shockingly, she claimed that Bo told her that it was Lisa's decomposing body. Now, with an apparent murder on their hands, officers asked Patience for permission to search the trailer. She consented to the search, but officers still arrested her for giving false information. Patience was taken to the Marion County Jail and held without bond. At about 11:30 that morning, sheriff's deputies drove to the Holiday Travel Park RV Resort to search the trailer. They detected the telltale odor of decomposing flesh immediately upon entering, and moments later, they made an unthinkable discovery. Sadly, Lisa had been wrapped in black plastic trash bags and stuffed into a storage space beneath the bed in a spare bedroom. Later, crime scene technicians found a pair of bloody boxing gloves near her body and significant traces of blood spatter that someone had obviously tried to clean up. During the autopsy, the medical examiner found that Lisa had 4 deep lacerations and more than 24 significant bruises on her body. Shortly thereafter, investigators paid Bo Jeffrey a visit in Putnam County. He initially agreed to speak with them, but then got sick and began throwing up shortly after they arrived. His condition eventually got so bad that he had to be taken to a hospital. He was released later that evening, and detectives went to interview him again the following day. At first, Bo stuck to his original story, but he quickly changed his tune when they told him that they had found Lisa's body in his trailer. Bo Jeffrey was arrested on December 6, 2018, and transported back to the Marion County Sheriff's Department to face first-degree murder charges in the death of his ex-wife, Lisa. Back at the station, investigators began interrogation by asking Bo a number of background questions like where he was born and what he did for a living.
So, let's talk a little bit about how long have you lived in Ocala on the off of 40?
I've been there about 8 months this time.
Okay. And what do you do for a living?
I do little driveways.
And is that work bring you all over, or is that just a local thing?
Just down here.
What's that?
Just down here.
Okay. And down here means like what, Florida or?
Yeah.
Okay. And so do you own your own business or do you work for somebody else?
I just do little small jobs for myself, me and my sons.
Okay. Do you have any employees under you, or is this just like a family thing?
No, I don't have no employees.
Okay. Do you go by Bo or do you go by Pete?
Pete.
Pete. Okay, Pete. So do you know why you're here?
No.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you today and get to know you a little bit more. The circumstances are rather serious, so I want to make sure that we talk to you and we communicate clearly what we're here for and what the situation is that's going on. And as part of that, you came down here to the Putnam County Sheriff's Office today, right? Now, my understanding is you came down here voluntarily?
No, they brought me.
Okay. Did you come here on your own free will, or did they bring you down here against your will?
They brought me.
Okay. Did when the deputy brought you down here, did you agree to come down here? Okay. So I want to let you know that I want to read you your rights, okay? Because I want to talk about some sensitive things with you. So I'm just going to read them off this card here, okay? You have the right to remain silent, okay? Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, okay?
Right.
You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned.
Yes.
If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish, okay?
Okay.
You can decide at any time to execute these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements, okay? Do you understand each of these rights as I've explained them to you? Yeah. Oh, you're nodding your head, yes. Okay.
Yes.
And having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
From the very beginning, he was noticeably twitchy and fidgety, as if he was going through alcohol withdrawal. He even admitted to being an alcoholic, and a few minutes later threw up into a plastic trash can.
Let's talk about your, you gonna throw up? Did you drink last night?
You want some napkins?
Let's give him something.
Later, when asked about Lisa, he described her as a sweetheart. He also said they had known each other their whole lives, but that she was addicted to crack cocaine and regularly smoked marijuana as well.
Tell me about Lisa. Tell me everything you can about her. Tell me if I pretend like I don't know anything about her. What kind of person is she?
She's a little sweetheart, and she's sick with Crohn's disease, and we've just known each other all of our life.
Okay. Have you guys had problems with your marriage, or what's going on? Why did she leave?
Lisa? No, she always would just appear at night. I don't know where she went.
She would appear during the night? She would appear at night?
Disappear from my home.
Okay.
When I'd be asleep or something back down.
Okay. So what kind of things was she into? I mean, she's disappearing at night. What was she doing?
Crack.
Okay. Crack cocaine?
Yes.
What kind of, aside from the crack cocaine, was there anything else that she was doing?
Smoking weed.
Okay. and that you guys have had a lot of problems. Tell me about the history of your marriage and what's been going on.
We got married in 12,
Okay.
and I've been surviving everybody here in my chin, trying to get somewhere that they know me. Because I know I'm gonna die today.
Okay. So when you guys got married, I mean, where did you guys get married at? Was this...
Okay, I'm gonna start.
Oh, okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have any kids with Lisa, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So you got married in 2012 in Stark, and tell me about the history of the relationship. Why did you guys get divorced?
She was bad on dope, and
Okay.
I wouldn't give her nothing no more, and she would steal my money, and
Okay, tell me more about that.
I just did it, and she would disappear or steal one of my trucks and rolled it around.
Okay. I had heard that she, or maybe you had told another law enforcement officer that she had taken some money out of your truck. Tell me about that.
I have 3 trucks, and I have little pouches underneath. I keep underneath the steering wheel.
Okay.
And for me to order to pay all my bills, I had to put a little money in this truck and a little money in that truck.
Okay.
And she'd call her daughter called Paris and said, "What you doing, Mom?" And she said, "I'm cleaning out the truck." Then I woke up and the pouch was over there. She was gone.
How much money was it?
$700.
She took $700. Was that the night? That was the day. Did I understand you correctly? That was in November. I mean, the 5th. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
She was gone at that point. Okay.
So she took the pouch containing $700 from back in the beginning of November 5th. Okay. And has she been? If you haven't heard from her at all since then? Not by the phone or social media or anything?
So she would take my money and go down to the crack bottom until every penny was gone, and somebody would bring out there and kick her out my door again, and I'd get her back on. And as soon as she could move, she'd take whatever I had to go get the stuff.
Okay. So this is a routine thing for her to go take your money and routine and whatnot. And then, so you guys got divorced, is my understanding, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeffrey eventually told investigators that he and Lisa had gotten into a violent fight on the night of her birthday because he didn't want her sitting on the couch naked. After arguing back and forth, he struck her multiple times. But he claimed that she was okay when he went to bed and that he found her dead in the bathroom the following morning. Then, he said he panicked, wrapped the body in the trash bags, and then hid it under the bed. According to the arrest affidavit, he even told investigators that he felt responsible for her death. Bo Jeffrey said that he hated Lisa so much that he wanted her to die of what he called natural causes, but he never admitted to killing her. Patience Burton eventually pleaded guilty to giving false information to law enforcement officers investigating a felony. Her sentence was deferred, but meanwhile, attorneys for the prosecution and the defense began preparing their case for the upcoming murder trial of Bo Pete Jeffrey. Before the defendant had his day in court, defense attorney Jason Wise filed a motion to exclude the items found in the travel trailer during the initial search. According to the attorney, the search was unlawful because officers got permission to enter the residence from Patience Burton. Since she was not the owner, the motion alleged that she did not have authority to allow anyone to enter the premises for any reason. The state argued that Patience kept personal items like shoes, clothing, and toiletries at the travel trailer and that she had her own key. They argued that that made her a resident and that she had legal standing to approve the search. This was a pretty big deal. If Judge Stephen Rogers sided with the defense, he could exclude the evidence recovered from the trailer, and this could possibly include Lisa's body and the autopsy results. As such, the tension in the courtroom was palpable for both sides as they did their best to sway Judge Rogers. After careful consideration, he ruled that the search was legal and the evidence was admissible. By the time the trial began on Tuesday, July 13th of 2021, Bo Pete Jeffrey had been in custody in the Marion County Jail for 954 days. During opening statements, prosecutors gave the judge, the jury of 9 men and 3 women, and Lisa's friends and loved ones a thorough overview of the events leading up to her tragic death.
I was actually waiting on Lisa to die in life of natural causes because in reality, I hated her that bad. That's what that man told the police about his ex-wife, Lisa Jeffrey, the woman he murdered, the woman he wrapped in garbage bags, and the woman he shoved in a storage compartment in his camper, in his trailer, in hopes that she'd be forgotten. Ladies and gentlemen, she won't be forgotten. Lisa Jeffrey had some medical issues. She had Crohn's disease, she had lupus, and she needed some medications on a regular basis to handle those illnesses. You'll also hear that Lisa Jeffrey had some her own demons involving some drug use throughout her life. It was not uncommon for Lisa Jeffrey not to maybe answer her phone or return a phone call for a day or two, but it was very uncommon for her family members not to have heard from her for weeks and weeks upon end. So with this information, Deputy Calvin Batts goes out to the Holiday Travel Park. He goes out to lot 808, where the defendant and Lisa Jeffrey shared that camper. Went on the property, knocked on the door of the camper, knocked on the windows, walked around the camper, walked around the lots, and hoped to find some information or some indication of where Lisa Jeffrey was. He found none. So he went back and he started to review the Marion County Sheriff's Office logs and learned that Jamie Curl, one of the victim's daughter, had called the Marion County Sheriff's Office several days earlier, also to report that she hadn't seen her mother in a while. Deputy Batts gave Jamie Curl a call, and Jamie Curl will tell you that she had not seen her mother or heard from her mother since around November 5th of 2018. And November 5th is an important date, and that was Lisa Jeffrey's birthday. On November 5th of 2018, Lisa Jeffrey turned 48 years old. And Jamie Curl had bought some plane tickets for her mother to come up to Oklahoma and visit her between November 20th and November 27th. Lisa Jeffrey never got on that plane and never came to visit her daughter. Jamie Curl actually called the defendant to inquire about her mother and where she was and whether she got the plane tickets that Jamie had mailed her. The defendant told Jamie, "I haven't seen your mother since November 6th, the day after her birthday." He told her he didn't know where she was, or what she was doing, or what happened to her. Patience Burton didn't give any information, any helpful information to find where Lisa Jeffrey was. The next day, on December 3rd of 2018, Detectives Pender and Detectives Levy from the Marion County Sheriff's Office again went to Patience Burton's mother's residence, which is located right down the street from where the Holiday Travel Park is. And they made contact with Patience Burton again, and they asked Miss Burton, knowing that she had been staying at that camper, if she would give permission for law enforcement to go inside that camper just to look for any information, any clues about Miss Jeffrey's whereabouts. Miss Burton agreed. They went over to the Holiday Travel Park, and Patience Burton, using her key, opened the door to the camper, and the detectives went in to look around. They looked around, they did a cursory look to try to find any information about where Miss Jeffrey was. And they went into the spare bedroom, which is located directly to the right when you walk in that camper, directly to the right. Detective Levy walked into that bedroom, noticed there was a mattress, noticed there was a storage compartment underneath that mattress. Detective Levy opened the door to that storage compartment, which is right down on the ground. The mattress sits on top of it. He opened the door to that storage compartment and smelled something. He smelled an odor that is unmistakable, that he had smelled many times in his career. He smelled the unmistakable odor of death and decomposition. There were a variety of other items shoved inside that storage compartment, and as Detective Levy began to remove each item one by one, that smell of decomposition and death grew stronger and stronger. Eventually, when those items were removed, He reached in and was able to see a black heavy-duty truck-type tarp. And when he felt that truck-type tarp, he found a large object inside. That object, ladies and gentlemen, was Lisa Jeffrey's dead and decomposing body. He again indicated that they went to celebrate Lisa Jeffrey's birthday on November 5th, 2018. When they came back from celebrating her birthday, he and Lisa Jeffrey went into that camper, and when he was alone in there with Lisa Jeffrey, he admitted to striking Miss Jeffrey over and over and over again. He admitted to grabbing her by the hair and flinging her into the master bedroom closet. He told detectives, "I put a wild..." He described seeing her face afterwards, and his words said she looked like a pumpkin. He admitted to the detectives that he went to Rural King and bought some black garbage bags that he used to wrap Miss Jeffrey's body in, along with the comforter. And he put her in that compartment underneath that mattress in the spare bedroom of the camper.
However, it was apparently so graphic and offensive that the audio had to be redacted from the courtroom footage. When it was the defense's turn to address the jury, attorney Jason Wise told them how intoxicated Bo Jeffrey was after Lisa's birthday party.
Ladies and gentlemen, what happened to Miss Jeffrey was tragic. There's no question about it. You're going to see over these next few days that Miss Jeffrey's death was not the result of any intent on the part of Mr. Jeffrey to cause her death. And when you see the testimony from the medical examiner and potentially from another pathologist, you'll see that there's no evidence that Mr. Jeffrey caused Miss Jeffrey's death in any way. You're going to be instructed, I expect, at the end of the case that you can look for reasonable doubt in three potential areas: evidence, lack of evidence, and conflicts in the evidence. And I would suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at those three areas, you'll see that Mr. Jeffrey is not guilty of this charge. I want to talk a little bit, to start with, about the evidence that I expect you'll hear, and Mr. Buxman just did a great job of detailing what he thinks the evidence will show. I want to tell you what I think the evidence will show. Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey had a good marriage for many years, but in the last couple of years, they developed a lot of trouble in their marriage. It became kind of a tragic story. Miss Jeffrey develops a drug problem, as you've heard about, and there'd be times when she would leave the house. They ran into problems. Mr. Jeffrey, I think you may hear some evidence, had a bit of a drinking problem himself, at least in the later years of their marriage. And we jump forward to the night of her birthday, Miss Jeffrey's birthday, and the birthday party that you just heard a little bit about. Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey go out that night with some other friends and family. There's a lot of drinking going on. The two of them go back to their trailer, and as you've heard, there's an altercation between the two of them that takes place. And I think you'll hear, if you hear Mr. Jeffrey's statements, I think you'll hear a lot more about what happened that night than just these couple of cherry-picked statements that came out. But in any event, when you hear Mr. Jeffrey talk about that, I think, ladies and gentlemen, when you pay close attention to that, you'll see Mr. Jeffrey doesn't really know what happened that night. You're going to hear the first statement, potentially, when he's talking to law enforcement at his aunt's house. He's throwing up. He's a complete mess. Second statement, they take him to the hospital. Again, I would suggest he's a complete mess. When law enforcement goes back and talks to him again, he's still in the hospital, still having some issues, as I think you'll see. But that's when they discuss that night. And that's when I think you will see, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Jeffrey doesn't know what happened. You'll see that he is very emotional. He cares about his wife. He was genuine in what he's saying. You'll see, as you've already heard, he panicked after that night, no question about it. You'll see reasons why, I expect. He doesn't really know what happened. His wife's dead. He's scared. He was there the night. He panics. Let me talk to you about lack of evidence, and the lack of evidence that I think you'll see. You won't see any evidence that Mr. Jeffrey acted with any premeditated intent. It's not there. You're not going to see any evidence, I would suggest, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Jeffrey did anything that night out of ill will, hatred, spite, or evil intent. The evidence will.
He conceded that Mr. Jeffrey and Lisa got into a heated fight that was fueled by the copious amounts of alcohol they had imbibed that night. But he contended that Bo had no recollection of the fight, that it was a crime of passion, and that the evidence wouldn't be as clear-cut as the prosecution claimed it would be. As poignant as opening statements are, they paled in comparison to the testimony provided by Lisa's heartbroken children. Jamie said her mother seemed perfectly fine when they spoke the day before her birthday. She got emotional when she recalled phoning jails and hospitals around Ocala in the days after her disappearance.
Now, did your mom have a problem on and off with illegal drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
And had she gone missing before in the past?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
No more than maybe 2-3 days, but in that time frame, you'd hear from her.
So had she ever gone missing for weeks, like this time with no call?
No, ma'am.
Did you attempt to locate your mom yourself by making calls to different places?
Yes.
Okay, where did you call?
I called the jails. I called hospitals, family members, and there's just
You couldn't find
couldn't
her?
find her.
Did you eventually call the Marion County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you do that?
I believe it was the 27th.
Of what, of November?
Yes.
Okay, 2018? And why did you actually decide to call the Sheriff's Office?
I was worried.
Next, her 18-year-old daughter took the stand.
Now, when you first moved in with them, how was the relationship between your mom and the defendant, Bo Pete Jeffrey?
It seemed like it was good. She was happy with them.
Okay. And then at some point, did that relationship change?
Yes.
Okay. How so?
After he started drinking,
All right. What happened after he started drinking?
he got more abusive to her.
Abusive?
Yes.
All right. So he wasn't drinking during the beginning of the relationship when you lived with them?
No.
All right. Did your mom have bruises sometimes after he would hit her?
Yes.
And did you say how often this physical abuse would happen?
Maybe like once every 2 weeks.
And what sort of things would cause the hitting, the physical abuse?
If something wasn't cleaned right or cooked right, stuff like that.
Now, did the defendant wear some sort of jewelry on his hands?
Yes.
What was that?
He wore rings on all of his fingers.
Did you ever see any marks from any of those rings on your mom after he hit her?
Yeah.
Okay, can you describe what ring he had that you saw a mark on your mom?
It was a horseshoe ring,
Okay.
and it was onto her arm.
And did actually the mark a horseshoe ring mark?
Yeah, you could see it onto her.
And did he ever hit your mom, you talked about in the arms, in the face?
I've never seen her in the face, but
All right, so just mainly the arms?
mainly the arms and her legs.
All right. And would this ever happen when you guys were driving in the car?
Yes.
All right. And what would happen in the car sometimes?
He would just reach over and just hit her.
Did your mom ever call the police?
No.
Did she ever leave him for a long period of time?
No.
Now, I want to ask you about a specific instance of violence that happened after a birthday party for the defendant's son when you all came back. Okay. Can you describe that incident for the jury?
We came back and my mom was drinking from this birthday party and he got mad because she was drinking and they was arguing and he put her into a chokehold between his legs and had both of his arms around her neck.
So she was between his legs?
Yeah,
Can you
he
show
was
us?
sitting onto the couch and my mom was on front of him onto the floor and he was choking her.
Okay. With his hands?
One with like his arm and his hand like this.
Okay. And her head was?
In between, like right here.
Okay. Did it come to the point where your mom couldn't breathe?
Yeah, she was struggling trying to get his hands off her throat.
Okay. And how long did this incident last?
A couple minutes.
Did your mom finally get able to get away?
Yeah.
And what happened after that?
They continued arguing and my mom left.
And about how old were you when that incident happened?
Probably like 13.
And now, did your mom call the police after this incident where he choked her and she couldn't breathe?
No.
Did your mom have any family in Florida?
None of her own.
Okay. Did your mom work?
No.
Did she rely on the defendant for the necessities of life, basically?
Yes.
And how big was your mom?
She was fairly small. Maybe like 90, 100 pounds at the most.
And how was she health-wise? We talked a little bit about that.
She wasn't good health-wise.
Okay. Was there medications that she had to take regularly?
Yeah, she had to take shots weekly and medicine for it.
Did these shots make her weak?
Yes.
Did you ever see your mom hit the defendant back?
No.
Did you ever see your mom hit him first?
No.
Did you ever try to get your mom to leave the defendant?
Yes.
Testimony was especially gut-wrenching because she spent more than 3 minutes telling the jury about the fights she witnessed between her mother and Bo and the subsequent injuries. Additional family members took the stand and gave similar testimony. On more than one occasion, Mr. Jeffrey covered his face with his hands and shook his head while Lisa's loved ones took the stand. As its last witness, the state called the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on Lisa's body. She said that Lisa's death had been caused by multiple blunt force injuries and that the wounds on the backs of her hands were defensive in nature. This is common during assaults when victims instinctively put their hands in front of their faces to protect themselves. Unsurprisingly, the defense called its own forensic pathologist to rebut the medical examiner's testimony. According to him, Lisa's blunt force traumas weren't necessarily caused by Mr. Jeffrey. In fact, the forensic pathologist claimed that they could just as easily have been caused by multiple falls due to acute intoxication. All told, the prosecution called more than a dozen witnesses over the 3-day trial. Even so, Bo Jeffrey never took the stand, partly because the judge informed him that the jury would learn about his previous felony convictions if he did.
If you choose to testify, one of the things in weighing the credibility of the witnesses, one of the instructions on that is that the jury can consider if a witness has ever been convicted of a felony. Right now, they don't know anything about your prior history. If you choose to testify, that state's going to elicit that information because they're entitled to do so, and they will learn that you have 4 prior felony convictions. If you choose not to testify, they won't know that information, but you won't get to tell your side of the story. But I would read the instruction advising them that you have a constitutional right not to testify. You don't have to prove or disprove anything, and they can't in any way hold that against you if you elect not to testify in this case. Mr. Wise indicates that you've had an opportunity to speak with him about this. Have you made a decision if you wish to testify or do not wish to testify?
I don't want to, sir.
All right, and you've had an opportunity to speak with your attorney about that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you're making that decision of your own free will?
Yes, sir.
All right, good enough. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
She also pointed out that Lisa weighed less than 100 pounds, 45 kilograms, and that Bo Jeffrey violently beat her to death simply because he didn't want her sitting on the sofa while she was unclothed. According to the state, he became so enraged that he grabbed her by the hair, dragged her into the bedroom, and beat her so violently that she vomited and lost consciousness. And more shockingly, he returned to beat her multiple times over the next few hours. Assistant Prosecutor Berndt described the attack as sick and said the defendant clearly hated his wife. And to hammer the point home, she showed the jury crime scene photographs of Lisa's body wrapped in trash bags. Afterwards, defense attorney Wise attempted to paint an entirely different picture of the night in question. He admitted that Bo Jeffrey and Lisa had a troubled relationship and that his client was no angel. But he claimed that Lisa was not severely beaten and that her ex-husband didn't intend to kill her, and that there wasn't enough blood found at the scene to substantiate the prosecution's version of events. In summary, he claimed that the crime was committed in the heat of passion, that Bo Jeffrey was too intoxicated to remember what happened, and without intent, the jury could not convict him of premeditated murder. Nobody could predict how long it would take the jury to reach a verdict when they were excused to deliberate, But since the trial only lasted 3 days, everyone assumed they would reach their decision in a matter of hours or a few days at most. Early on, the foreman sent the judge a note asking if the jury could review the court transcripts. After consulting attorneys from both sides, Judge Rogers denied the request on grounds that the transcripts were not technically evidence. Nonetheless, the jury had alerted the bailiff that a verdict had been reached just before 3 p.m. that afternoon. They re-entered the courtroom shortly thereafter, and a few minutes later, the clerk stood and read the verdict as Lisa's emotional friends and family members and the defendant, Bo Pete Jeffrey, looked on in anticipation.
Okay. All right. We're a jury of your peers having found you guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree. The court also finds you guilty. I am adjudicating you guilty. I'm ordering that you serve a sentence of life imprisonment with the Department of Corrections. I am going to order payment of a $10,000 fine plus court cost, $100 cost of prosecution, $100 for the services of your attorney as well.
They found Bo Jeffrey guilty of first-degree murder, and when the jurors were polled individually, they all confirmed that the verdict had been reached unanimously. Bo Jeffrey decided to make a statement before the sentencing portion of the trial got underway. That afternoon, Bo Jeffrey's girlfriend, Patience, nodded at him solemnly as he was led out of the courtroom, but one of Lisa's relatives yelled something to him before he went through the door. Defense attorney Wise expressed disappointment after the trial, but he also said that he had a number of promising avenues for an appeal. During post-trial interviews outside the courtroom, Lisa's daughters told a reporter what they really thought of Bo Jeffrey.
I thought he would show some kind of remorse, but when you do something to that extent, he has no soul. He's absolute devil. There's nothing to him.
What do you think was the worst part of this for you?
All of it.
You had to testify, right? You had to tell them what the relationship was like.
Yes.
So, thinking about your mother, how do you want her to be remembered?
That she had a good soul. She'd do anything for anybody. No matter what it was, she'd give you the shirt off her back.
And are you thinking about her? She was 97 pounds, and you know, the defense attorney said that she was quite the feisty little woman. Do you think that she was as aggressive as he made her out to be? That somehow they got into
She
it?
was hard-headed, but nothing like he made her out to be. She was not the person that they described her in court.
In the middle of the trial, he looks back over at us, starts mouthing words. I don't know what he mouthed. He stuck his hand to the side, just like this.
He did it twice. He
and
went
was
like
flipping
this,
us off
and then went like this.
throughout the whole trial. Why? He's evil.
Then, shortly after the interview, Patience Burton was escorted out of the courtroom just a few feet away. She didn't say a word as she walked past Lisa's emotional family members, but somebody in the group had a few choice words for her. They were understandably angry that she stood by Jeffrey throughout the trial and that she wasn't prosecuted for giving detectives false information when they questioned her on December 2nd of 2018.
The police ain't where you live, honey.
Listen, don't do this. Don't do this. They can arrest me for it. She's not my mother.
It is though. She's crying over a man that killed an innocent woman, and she gets to walk away. My mother's never gonna speak to her again because he wanted to hold war.
But your mother would not want you to.
Because she wanted her care.
For her, she's not worth it.
Bo Jeffrey was eventually transferred from the Marion County Jail to the state penitentiary, where he will serve his term for the rest of his natural life.